Hello and welcome to GameSack. Once again, we're going to play some games that we've had in our collection for a while that we just haven't gotten around to playing for one reason or another.
That's right. Don't you feel absurd sometimes that you have these games just sitting there and you're like, you buy them and you're like, years, months, whatever later, and you're like, I still haven't played that game.
I know.
I feel pretty silly.
It's like, why do we even buy them if we're not going to play them right away? And, well, now is as good a time as any to play them. Let's get to it. This is LLL Bleed for the Sega Dreamcast, released in 2001. This was sent into the show, and I guess it's some kind of survival horror game. Let me tell you, it's not a typical survival horror game by any means. It starts out with a bunch of characters who communicate and even give speeches using telepathy.
My dad was always conjuring up new devices.
Or maybe the developers didn't bother to animate their mouths, I don't know.
You just said in your speech to conquer your fear and surpass the odds.
Anyway, your friend scores some tickets to some haunted theme park style attraction. You don't want to have any part of that, but your friends sure as hell do. They go missing, so you of course decide to go look for them at the haunted theme park. I mean, where the hell else could they be? Here you have a small hub world where you can save your game, buy stuff, and things like that. You can also enter stages here, but they must be done in order. Sadly, the actual gameplay has an extremely steep learning curve. You wander around while a bunch of cheap and unavoidable jump scares happen. These cause actual harm and eventually your death. Yep, seeing a light bulb flash will cause you to lose actual health. Maybe it was a compact fluorescent with lots of mercury inside. Anyway, my first impression of this game was not good at all. It took a few times, but I eventually learned how to play, I think. First, you need to discover this horror monitor device. These will let you look around and they'll zoom in when they see a trap or a jump scare. You then press A to put a blue warning marker which disables the trap. Naturally, as you might surmise, that costs adrenaline points. And sometimes if you walk by in just the right way, you'll collect the blue orb and that'll restore some adrenaline. And believe me, you're going to need as much of that as you can get. There's lots of items to find and buy, like food, which obviously restores your health, and other things to stop bleeding and keep you calm. There's even actual monsters to fight in here, but honestly the combat is far from superb. However, you can get weapons which makes the fights a lot easier. From what I've played so far, you basically just move along slowly, looking around at everything, trying to discover and disarm traps and placing the blue orbs. And let me tell you, it can be kind of tedious. If you run out of adrenaline, you can't use the horror monitor anymore, so be careful. Because some jump scares, such as this one, which is only some blood on the floor, can drain all of your life. I really like the visuals, which run at 60 frames per second. They're actually not too bad for their day. The sound and music are okay, nothing too tremendously special going on there. The internet seems to really like this one, so maybe I just haven't discovered the part of the game that's amazing yet. Still, I think I need to play it more to truly understand it. I'm definitely glad that they tried new things here. Those new things don't always work, but it's better than the safe formulas we keep getting in game after game these days. So bravo to AIA for daring to stray away from the norm.
Cool.
Alright, this here be Outlander for the Sega Genesis from Mindscape. I got this at a thrift store a year or two ago for $2, I think. It looks like a cool Mad Max style game, but I just never got around to playing it. Until now. Yeah, it's definitely a Mad Max kind of game, and supposedly it was going to be just that, but Mindscape lost the license during development. Anyway, you can tell right away that Mindscape was very limited in their game designing abilities. You start out driving first-person style down a road going to who knows where and shooting up motorcycles who are all trying to ruin your day. Sometimes one of them is beside you and then a window pops up with a shotgun letting you shoot at them. And that is pretty cool. Sadly, that's as innovative as this game gets. You keep going and going, using up all of your ammo and resources until you come to a stop. Then it's a side-scrolling stage. In these stages, when you defeat enemies, they'll drop items which you can collect which will restore ammo and whatnot to your car. And maybe even some health. If you make it through the stage, you get back into your car and keep on going. Wash, rinse, and repeat. It kinda reminds me of the early Genesis game Technocop from Razorsoft. Remember that one? It tried to mix the driving and side-scrolling levels as well, also in a post-apocalyptic world. But honestly, I'm not sure that this game is much better. The graphics have improved since then, but the gameplay probably isn't even that good. This one is also on the Super Nintendo, and honestly, I can see why it's a $2 game.
Here's Pitfall 3D Beyond the Jungle for the OG PlayStation by Activision. A while ago, one of our viewers who's a big PlayStation fan sent us a couple of games. The first one being loaded, and since I already own it, Joe decided to take that one and I took Pitfall. Well, being the busy guy that I am, I had this sitting by my PlayStation for about 4 months with good intentions to play it. And being that this game is a gift, I really felt I needed to play it before I die. Well, I'm finally playing it now. I remember really enjoying the Atari 2600 Pitfall game. Pitfall 3D here tries to retain some feeling of the original while bringing the game into an isometric 3D world. I seem to be talking about more isometric games than I care for lately. What's going on here? Anyway, I'm able to control the game fairly well considering the camera angle, although there were times that I got disoriented wondering if the objects were in the background or foreground. It's always the same problem with this camera angle, but luckily it's not too bad here. I did feel a bit of the old Atari game when I was playing, as there's a plentiful amount of pits and also plenty of vines to swing on. As far as graphics go, the game does look decent. There's not a lot of colors going on, and the backgrounds look like they meld into each other at times. And the music's just there. It's not annoying, but it's not enjoyable either, and you can turn it down in the options screen if you want to. You know, that's always a nice feature. Luckily, you don't have to fight a lot of enemies here, and that's another complaint I have with isometric games. It's really hard sometimes to tell exactly where an enemy is, and a lot of times I end up attacking air instead of the enemy. And the enemy probably thinks I'm an idiot. Well, I'll show you as I swing at this hair over here. As with a lot of games starting in that generation, your character does quite a bit of talking while you're playing.
Harry knows when to good.
At first, I thought this was just a blatant ripoff of Bruce Campbell from Evil Dead, and the stuff he was saying wasn't even funny at all.
Ooh, look what I found.
As I looked into it, I found out that it really is Bruce Campbell voicing Harry. So even though the lines seemed a bit better knowing this, they still weren't funny, and at times they just seemed out of place.
Oh, I get it. The crystals give me help.
That's better.
As each world is loading, you get comic book style cutscenes which tell you what you'll be accomplishing when that level loads. I actually like this quite a bit and never felt I was going into a level blind. Each area has you doing pretty much the same thing. You find 4 different switches which will open up the passage to move on. If this changes the further you play, I don't know, but maybe I'll keep playing just to find out. I did notice that the game is definitely buggy in spots. It makes me wonder how these got past beta testing. Here I'm going back to this wall to collect diamond icons. As I collect the diamonds, something happens and next thing I know I'm on the other side of this wall. After wandering around a bit, I realize that I can't get back, so I just proceed to kill myself. Or how about here where I'm trying to jump over these pipe-looking things? I clearly make the jump, but I get pushed back through the pipe just so I can try it again. It's this kind of crap that really starts to piss a person off. Besides these few bugs, the game is playable and actually is kind of fun to play. The Atari 2600 original is included on the disc by typing in the password Crane's Baby. I'm glad this was sent into the show and we really do appreciate the gesture. If you've played this game, what do you think of it?
I'm Super Harry.
This is Counterforce from Conspiracy Games for the Nintendo Wii. Someone recommended it to me a year or two ago because it was supposedly similar to Space Harrier. It was also super cheap, so I picked up a brand new copy from Amazon, I think. I mean, how could I resist a game with up to 12 different enemies and 5 different bosses? Can all that even fit on a DVD? Anyway, aliens have invaded and you need to defeat them and stuff. You get to choose one of 3 different flying mechs, each with their own set of stats. Gameplay-wise, it's only kinda similar to Space Harrier. You have a cursor that you aim at the screen to shoot down enemies while you simultaneously move your flying robot around with a nunchuck. And this is where the game's first problem comes in. You gotta control 2 things on an XY axis at the same time and it's easy to get confused at what's going on. To add to this, your cursor is often pretty hard to see and the action on screen is pure chaos. Space Harrier didn't need a damn cursor. Even games that use a cursor like Panzer Dragoon don't force you to steer the dragon around independently. They added the Wii remote abilities where none were needed just for the sake of adding them. Suffice it to say, it's really easy to run into enemy shots. You fire your regular shot by pressing the A button, which doesn't have rapid fire, by the way. There are a few other things besides this to help you out. You're constantly collecting on-screen icons. The green ones are for your lock-on targets, which allow you to fire missiles or a giant beam for massive damage. You can also power up your regular shot, but honestly, I couldn't really notice any difference. I'll take the game's word for it. You also have a stock of bombs which are conveniently accessed by pressing the 1 button near the bottom of the Wii remote. Of course, God forbid that it be the B trigger or anything convenient like that. I mean, the B trigger isn't even used in the game. Thankfully, you have a life bar and a shield bar so you don't die in one hit. You also have a small stock of continues that respawn you right where you died. There's also a shop between levels where you can restock and upgrade yourself, but everything seems really expensive. Sadly, this game just isn't very fun to play, at all. It's really more annoying than anything. It's obviously a budget title, and they sure cut a lot of corners. Firstly, it's not even in widescreen and it's 480i only. No progressive scan option available. It's sad that any proper Wii game would be allowed to run only in interlaced mode, but hell, Nintendo doesn't care. The competition is only the PS3 and the Xbox 360, so interlaced is fine. Next, look at this Versus graphic. It's like they grabbed it from the internet and incompetently used the wand tool in Photoshop to delete the background around it. Did they honestly think nobody would notice? On a good note, at least the music is really good. Too bad there's no sound test or anything. I can see why I waited so long to play this game, and honestly, I don't think I'll be playing it too much more. Alright, so you want to borrow my copy of Counter-Strike for the Wii?
No.
Okay.
I'll just buy my own.
Yeah.
Nah, never.
Yeah. It's cheap enough if you're going for a full Wii collection and you want to play a game or buy a game that you'll never play.
Luckily, I'm not going for a full Wii collection.
Exactly. So we've got more games that we've still never played, and I've got one coming up, not right now, but when I get to my segment, that you will not believe that I've never played.
This is Alice, Madness Returns, developed by Spicy Horse and published by Electronic Arts. This was released in 2011 on the Xbox 360, PC, and the PlayStation 3, which I'm playing here. I bought this game brand new for $20 about 3 years ago from the coolest game store around, Gameforce Boulder. As I sit here and think about it, I don't really know the main reason why I bought this game other than that it was cheap and looked pretty cool. I've read the 2 books by Lewis Carroll, and that probably was another factor that made me buy this one. The story here is much darker than the books, of course, and completely different. Hell, as far as I know, this is a different Alice. In the game, Alice believes that she started a fire that killed her parents. She now lives in an orphanage, and while on a mission to get her meds, she hallucinates a white cat and soon gets back to Wonderland. Wonderland starts out nice and pretty, but it doesn't take long for everything to start feeling a tad bit depressing. The graphics are very nice, and I love the art style here. There's tons of detail everywhere that I've been so far, and I hope it just gets better from here on out. It doesn't take long for Alice to get her main weapon, the Vorpal Blade. You know, it really should be a sword, but it appears to be a kitchen knife instead. It doesn't matter though, since it does a nice job of killing enemies. That's not all, as she even gets a ranged attack in the form of a pepper shaker that shoots like a Gatling gun. It has infinite pepper ammo, but you can't constantly use it or it'll overheat. Yes, that's right, an overheating pepper mill. I wouldn't have thought about it either. These 2 weapons can be upgraded throughout the game, which will give them more attack power. You collect teeth along the way, which is actually the currency for buying upgrades. In general, I just really like the way this game controls. All the time Alice is learning new moves, and the controller is slowly running out of buttons to assign them to. I especially like this nice double jump, which also lets Alice float down to platforms that look like they might be too far away to land on. Another nice idea is the ability to shrink Alice at any time, which does multiple things. Of course, being small, Alice can fit through the small doors throughout each level. This usually reveals hidden secrets and stuff to collect, which of course I like. It also helps you if you've lost your way or need a hint, and it also can show you secret platforms and keyholes. When Alice is small, drawings appear on the wall like they're lit up with a black light. It's very helpful. My only complaint is that there's quite a bit of screen tearing, and it's happened so much that I've almost gotten used to it by now. Still, it should go without saying that we here at GameSec are big fans of proper VSync. Big fans! Still, I'm really looking forward to beating this game and seeing all that it has to offer. It's just a shame that I've waited so long to play it. I've only played a short bit of it, maybe 4 hours or so, and I definitely like it. Oh, and one more thing to mention is something for us smart gamers who own the physical copy. Included with this release is a download code for a free copy of the first game, which is American McGee's Alice. I've always wanted to play this game, but was never able to since it was released only on PCs and Macs before this release. I'm really happy to see this, and what little I've played just to show you guys has gotten me excited to play it after I beat Alice Madness Returns. Sure, it looks dated, but it still has some really cool special effects going on, and I imagine back in the day this looked totally amazing. Alice is my favorite type of game. I love the platforming and the puzzles that make up the gameplay, and I do enjoy the story even though it's a bit depressing. The voice acting is pretty good here, but I would still suggest leaving the subtitles on if you're an American. The English accent can be really tough to understand at times, but it gives the game a lot of personality.
It's now time for whatever it is you want to talk about. It's time for tea. Talk treats with turkey. You read the Looking Glass line.
Have you played this one? If so, do you like it?
Alright, how about some Red Dead Redemption on the PlayStation 3? That's right, I never played this one before until right now. I bought it at Toys R Us a year or two ago for less than $10, and it's time to see what this one is all about. Look at all this cool stuff that games used to come with. Hooray for the future. Anyway, you play as John Marston, who's some kind of former law dude back in 1910 or 1911 or something like that. He's trying to bring in an old acquaintance for some reason, and he gets shot in the process. He's nurtured back to health by the lady who I assume he'll eventually get it on with, because stories like this are predictable if nothing else. But I haven't gotten that far yet, so what do I know? I could be totally wrong. As far as I can tell, this game has little to nothing to do with a Red Dead Revolver that I played back in the Xbox episode. I mean, this guy seems like a completely different dude. He certainly has a different name. But again, this is my first time playing, so I don't know all the details yet. As you'd expect from Rockstar, this is a sandbox-style game where you can move around at will, or you can follow the linear story. Gameplay-wise, everything seems very well done. It all controls like Grand Theft Auto, though some of the actions have slightly different button placements. It was kind of confusing for a few seconds, but I got used to it really fast. The action scenes mostly play out like a third-person shooter. In fact, I really like these. It's fun killing dirty cowboys, even though my character's a dirty cowboy. You have the normal weapon and item wheel from other Rockstar games. You also collect ammo and stuff from fallen enemies, kind of like Uncharted. There's also tons of side missions and stuff like that to keep you busy. I also like that I can skin an entire horse with my knife in only a few seconds. Tasty. Yes, you can go wild and start shooting up the town for no reason whatsoever if you want. In fact, this is a great way to lose some honor. You see, if you have less honor, the criminals are going to be more open and friendly to you, and you may be able to get something you need. If you have high honor, the law and righteous people will be good to you and give you discounts and stuff. So yeah, go ahead and push that lady over. You've got to do some dirty deeds to get things done sometimes, and I don't think the people will mind dying for you. I mean, after all, it's for a righteous cause. Plus, you can always pay off your own bounty so that everything is A-OK. Who knew murder was so cheap? You can even chase people for miles and give them a good scare. Don't worry though, they'll forget that it ever happened and be nice to you just like a good NPC. I like the little touches, such as some of the ways you can kill an enemy in close quarters. Damn. Or how brutal some of the bad guys in this game are. I also like that you can travel miles and miles away from your horse, but if you whistle for him, he'll be there within seconds. Hell, you can even shoot your horse dead, go shoot up to town, and then whistle for him. He'll come back to life just to give you a ride. That is a damn loyal horse, but you need to earn a horse's loyalty by riding it a lot. The visuals are excellent. I mean, the PS3 is an obsolete system now and considered super weak, but seriously, some of the visuals here are as good as a lot of the things I see on the PS4. Granted, it's only running at 720p and the frame rate probably won't impress someone like Ang Lee, but it's still gorgeous to look at. The sound is excellent as well, with a full 7.1 surround soundscape. You hear things all around you. This one's also on the Xbox 360, and there it's limited to 5.1 compressed surround sound. I think that probably my biggest complaint in this game is that riding the horse takes a lot of getting used to. Now this is an extremely minor complaint, but often the horse didn't do exactly as I wished. Stupid thing. Overall, I'm really enjoying it a lot so far. It's sometimes hard to resist walking into a public building and killing everybody like in Grand Theft Auto. But still, the linear missions are really fun. I honestly wished I had played this one sooner. And I definitely want to play more before Part 2 is released, and that is going to be a must-buy for me.
This is Lost in Shadow, developed by Hudson and released on the Wii in 2011. Believe it or not, I bought this game new back in 2012 and have never played it. I remember when I bought it because I only had money for one game at the time, but there were 3 games that kind of had my interest. I wanted Xenoblade Chronicles, but I was pretty sure that I didn't really want an RPG, and I'd heard that game was soaking up over 100 hours, so I passed. Ain't got time for that stuff. The other game was The Last Story, which is an action RPG, and again I really didn't have the time for a super long game, so I went with Lost in Shadow. I felt that this would be a game I could play in short spurts and not worry about the usual things you worry about when you don't play a game for a while. Stuff like, where am I? What am I supposed to be doing? What are the controls again? So I bought it and sat on it for 4 years, for what reason I really don't know, but now I'm playing it for this episode. Maybe this episode is the reason I bought it. Whatever it is, let's get into it. In the beginning, there's a boy trapped on the top of a very tall tower, and a guard of some sort appears and comes up to the boy. Nobody talks, and the boy looks like he's dead, just suspended there in air. The guard takes the boy's shadow and tosses it over the side of the tower. This is very strange, but I guess this is the only way to come up with a story for a game where you play as a shadow. As you start to climb the tower, you do all of your platforming on the shadow of solid objects. You can see the actual object in the foreground that's making the shadow, and let me tell you, it takes a bit of time to get used to. I mean, in a normal game, you're looking at the foreground object and not the background like you're supposed to in this game. I've caught myself many times trying to make jumps to a solid wall and not a shadow. Luckily, I've only died a few times doing this, but it takes some time to adjust. Speaking of dying, when you do finally die, the game takes you all the way back to the beginning of a level. I'm really not a fan of this since levels can be pretty big, which makes going back through them a bit tedious. Overall, I do like the idea behind this game, and it opens up a lot of possibilities for puzzles and platforming. As you might have noticed, you have this little fairy that follows you around. You actually control this little sprite with a Wii remote. The cool thing about this little imp is that it can manipulate objects in the foreground, which will in turn cause its shadow to change in the background. If you ever get stuck, try changing something in the foreground, and that might help you open up a new path. The game is mainly about platforming and puzzle solving, which is fine by me. It doesn't take long for you to get a sword, or I mean a shadow of a sword, and this is necessary for the occasional enemy that you fight. You do gain levels in this game, but I'm not sure that I really feel it's necessary since you do so little fighting. Maybe later on in the game you fight a lot, but from what I've played so far, there's not much. There's even areas where you can control the direction of the sun, which will again change how the background looks. These areas are few and far between, but they are interesting to mess around with. Graphically, I like the art style, and for some reason Eco comes to mind as I cast my gaze upon this game, so that's kinda cool. As far as music goes, it's more ambient than anything structured, which is fine by me. I've noticed that this title didn't score really well with professional reviewers, but I'm finding it to be a good time. It's an interesting take on puzzle platformers that has some tough puzzles. I'm glad that I finally got around to playing this one.
Can you believe I never played Red Dead Redemption until now?
Do you want me to answer truthfully?
Yeah.
Yes, I can believe that.
Exactly.
But that's it. I mean, there's some games that I haven't played in, like for years. I've owned them, and I'm like, these are great freaking games.
And I think you're going to get a lot of flack for buying that stupid Wii game, whatever. I already forgot about it. Instead of Xenoblade Chronicles.
You know, that's probably very true, but you know, like I said, I don't have time for a long RPG, and so I'm going to go for the easier route, something I can play quick and get it over with.
I can't argue with that. Anyway, what are some games that you guys have never gotten around to playing? What are some games that you'd like to see us cover that we've never gotten around to playing? Let us know, and in the meantime, thank you for watching GameSag.
Well, I finally finished Pitfall 3D Beyond the Jungle for my PlayStation, Joe, and I guess my life's complete now, so I can die.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I got the tool just for that.
Whoa.
Let me help you.
Oh, I was just kidding, Joe. I'm not ready to die. I still got games to play, like Super Mario 3. I haven't played Super Mario 3 yet. I gotta play it. I'm not done yet.
Well, don't you say stuff that you don't mean from now on. You got it?
Okay, I won't.